Whew, I guess it's up. Hi everyone, welcome to Masterclass on Notion Day 2. I missed recording this session yesterday due to some technical glitches. Actually, the recording was done, but the screen was not properly visible. So I thought that it will not be nice to put it in the YouTube. So I'm recording that again. And yes, it will be a quick video and we'll be going with this strategy from now on. The first 15 minutes of the 30-minute session will be the slides. It will be quick. I'll take the questions, but it will be quick, right? The 15 minutes deadline. Next 15 minutes of this 30-minute session will be on application of what is being talked about in the first 15 minutes. So we'll get hands-on into Notion and build stuff, right? So that you can understand and you can visualize what I was trying to say, what I was trying to convey. With that, welcome to day 2. And yes, in this particular session, we'll be talking about. First, we'll go going towards with the previous steps, which you must have done by now. Um, we'll be talking about note-taking essentials, and then we'll discuss the next steps, which you should do with that knowledge, right? Sure. So let's get started. Previous steps. You must have set up your Notion account by now, and it would have been overwhelming because Notion bombards you with all the templates and you are confused on how to go around solving your problem with Notion. But bear with me, we'll get things sorted and we'll get on track, right? Get your account set up, put your image, put your, play around with Notion, know what the interface looks like. We'll go hands on there, right? Pre-assessment form. You have received the first day assignment as the pre-assessment form, and that assessment is to analyze what the cohort mix looks like, to analyze what I should do to build the workshops, to build the classes in a much better fashion, so that the whole cohort can get benefit, right? So that was the purpose of the form. You need not know everything about Notion to fill that form. In fact, you need to know nothing about Notion to fill that form. It will help me, it will help as a guide to me to design the course better, right? And we talked about Markdown, and Markdown article was shared in the previous day, right? If you're not if you do not get the article, you can check the slides. The slides are shared in the Discord server. You can open the slides, get to the speaker's note, and there you will find all the links and the references of what I talk, right? And there the article of Markdown is present. So you can check that article. In fact, it is advisable for you to check that article because it will give you a clear understanding of what Markdown actually is. And that is the foundational block on uh, which Notion is built, right? Now, today, we are going to talk about the fundamentals. We are going to talk about what note taking actually is. And note taking is a very fundamental step to, to anything you do with Notion. You run a website, you actually take notes and display it in the website. You build a dashboard, you actually take notes, build fancy databases, views, and then you display it in a dashboard. Anything you do with Notion is primarily note taking, and secondarily you can do some advanced stuffs with that blocks of elements in Notion, right? So we are trying to understand what the idea of organization is, right? And here I would like you to suggest a very simple but a very effective, very efficient, very powerful method to build things, especially in Notion. Do things which excites you, do things which works with you, works for you. If you are a person who like to take bullet notes, take bullet notes in Notion. If you are like, if you don't want to if you don't like to take bullet notes, take paragraph wise notes in Notion. It will eventually be evolving into something repetitive, and once you identify that repetition, you can build database out of it. And once a database is created, it can be given different views, which will be essentially the aha moment of creating dashboard and creating website, etc. So First you need to understand what works for you, right? Be easy on yourself. We will be updating and upgrading our workplace, our setup every time, like every now and then. So you do not need to push yourself to the very edge at the very beginning, right? Go easy, go very very basic, very very fundamental, very very rudimentary in a approach to note taking. And then eventually when you write, build a few pages in Notion, you will understand what is resonating with you, and then you can build complex systems in Notion. Learn from the process, you know like it's a journey. Notion is not Notion, like doing advanced stuffs in Notion cannot be done in one day. You can check out creators and you can follow their steps and build your dashboard, but essentially you are copy pasting their ideas. That is not how you will realize the true power of Notion, right? You have to give time for that ideas to cultivate within you, right? And for that you need to get your fundamentals clear. You need to understand what the foundational building blocks of Notion as a whole package is. And once you get your fundamental building blocks clear, you will now understand how to use the advanced features like roll-ups and sync tables and etc, right? Those are very very simple step. The difficult step, or not the difficult, the hard thing about Notion is, we do not know what the fundamental layer of Notion blocks looks like, right? once you are once you are comfortable with the fundamental blocks of Notion, you will understand how to make complex system with Notion. I know I'm repeating it again and again, but it is very essential for you to understand that getting your fundamentals clear in this particular note management system is very essential to building advanced stuff. In this cohort, I'm not trying to give you knowledge where you can replicate the templates and build your stuff. I'm trying to give you a process, a formula, wherein you can cultivate your mindset to build things with Notion. And once you are in that process, you will understand the true power of Notion, and you will not need any creators video, any templates which are available online to build your workflow. You will only need ideas in your head, and you will go on Notion and execute that plan, right? That is the approach what I'm trying to cultivate here, right? So idea of organization very essentially is that what works best for you, go with it, and with time it will evolve, and it will set in the pattern of databases, wherein you can then again build complex system out of it, right? One more thing is begin with the goal in mind, right? If you start a page in Notion, uh, define the purpose of the page, right? In your mind at least, right? Or else write the description of the purpose in the Notion page somewhere, that let's say this page is my note taking for this course, right? CSO 101. So you will understand where to go. It will give you a direction. If you start a Notion page just to explore, it's good to explore, but again you will be wandering into the depths of the rabbit hole which Notion gives, and that will lead nowhere, and you will find yourself frustrated with the whole process, right? So before starting any page in Notion, any database in Notion, you need to understand what the purpose that page or database is going to serve. We have already talked that Notion is nothing but uh, oh, sorry, we are going to talk about Notion is nothing but database and pages. All right. So the next point which I would like to build is Notion is nothing but a collection of pages and a collection of database. That is what Notion is, right? When you look at Notion, when you create any page, you will be given two options: either to create a single page, or you have database option, a list of databases, but essentially they are same thing. I'm going to explain, right? And even when you understand, like, a page in Notion is a collection of blocks, and every block is essentially a bullet point. Every block in Notion is essentially a bullet point, nothing else, right? Okay, that's a very big thing to take. And let me build upon that philosophy so that you understand how to see Notion in a very clean lens, to get the idea of what Notion offers, right? Let's talk about pages first. When you open Notion, right, you see a blank canvas, right? And you give it an icon, you give it a heading, and then the fun start. Then that's a blank canvas, infinite canvas which you get. You click something, you type something, it is a paragraph, right? You can convert that paragraph into different elements of markdown, right? Those are interconvertible, right? You can convert a sentence which you write into a, from a paragraph into a bullet point, to a toggle list, to a call out, to a heading, to anything which the markdown offers, right? So essentially those are interconvertibles. So your complete Notion page is essentially bullet points. I personally resonate with bullet points the most, so you can understand it with any other elements of block which you resonate with. So you, for you it might be paragraphs, so it is essentially a list of paragraphs, right? But all the paragraphs have different views. Some have toggle view, some have bullet point view, some have heading views, etc. Now, once you understand that, all right, Notion page is essentially a collection of blocks, and each block is essentially a bullet point in some lens, right? Bullet point hidden, it is a bullet point, and it shows itself as a toggle, it shows itself as a paragraph, it shows itself as a call out, right? Once you understand that, things will become easier for you. There are few elements in Notion which does not fall into this category. Those things are: number one, line breaks, that is single line, you know which comes runs across the page and it divides section. That cannot be converted into text. That is a line break. That can be used as section divider. That is one thing that does not fit into the this knowledge of elements, right? The second part is embeds. Embeds are basically uh, another URL, another page, another section of internet which you can embed in Notion page, so that you cannot convert into text or paragraph or bullet. Apart from these two things, another one is code block. Yeah, right. Code block is just like an embed, but there can be programming languages written within it, and Notion even can very in a very simple way execute those programming languages. For example, Notion it's a very recent feature, like just yesterday it was launched. Notion can execute Mermaid JS into a flowchart, right? So those kind of thing, that is block, that is embeds, right? Apart from embeds and section breaks, everything in Notion is essentially a bullet point, right? In Notion page. Cool. Now you understand what Notion page actually is. The second thing to understand is what databases are. So databases are nothing but a collection of pages, right? So in database, let's say you're writing a blog post. Let's say you're writing a social media post, right? Every social media post will be having some similarities. Let me check the time. I'm going a bit fast, I guess. Okay, right. 16 minutes up. I'll wind up in 5 or so minutes. Right. Every database in Notion is a collection of pages. And let's say you're writing a social media post, right? The content of the social media post is one of the feature of it, right? One of the column which you need to fill in the database, the content part. What can be the other columns? Who the social media post is written by? It can be other column, like let's say this content is written by this. The time can be another feature right there, right? The mood can be another feature. Number of characters can be another feature. In which social media platform it is written can be other feature. The purpose of the post can also be a feature, right? uh, what campaign the post was running for, etc. So once you identify that, for even for a social media post, a very generic simple asset which is available in the internet, there are many features associated with it, and you can arrange those features in a tabular format. Imagine Excel sheet, imagine Google Sheets. You can arrange those in a tabular format, and that is what Notion databases are. It is almost similar to a database. The catch here is that every row in the database is essentially a page, right, with some properties, and the properties are the columns in the database. I'll repeat, every row in the database is a page, and that page have some unique features called properties, and properties are essentially the columns of that database. For example, every row in the database of this hypothetical social media database which we have talked about, every row will essentially be a page, right? And the properties of that page will be date, author, purpose, characters, etc., social media platform, and the content of that page is left for you to explore. Like, you can add more features to it, but it will be treated as the content of that page. That will not be treated as the properties of that page, right? Cool. With that said, now you understand what, or maybe you are confused, but repeat this video, hear this again. Database is a collection of pages. Each page is in a database essentially have some properties which are columns of the database. And apart from the properties of the database, it can also have content. So every row of database can be opened as a page, right? Every row in the database, you can open that as a page view, and you can use the page view, everything which Notion offers, right? And in the page, you can embed the database, right? And now you know how the loop goes. You can embed pages in database, and database are essentially a collection of pages, and you can open those page and embed database inside of it and go on. That's the rabbit hole which we are exploring. And this foundational knowledge of what pages, what databases are, helps us create complex systems in Notion. Now, there are some other features, like every page can be tagged in a page, every database can have a synced view in any other page. So if one single database is having a synced view in any other page of the Notion's ecosystem of setup which you own, then any changes on one particular database will reflect on the other database instantaneously, right? Same concept is with blocks, right? If any block is synced with other blocks, right, a change in a particular block will reflect in another block, right? Those are synced blocks, right, essentially. And there are some similar concepts. There are roll-ups in databases properties where you can look for any other field. You can use primary key and foreign key concept of SQL in databases, etc. But those are pretty much straightforward if you know what you're doing. But before knowing that, you have to get the basics clear, and that is what this particular day was about, of knowing, understanding what the essential building blocks of Notion is. Now, once you know about the idea of organizing a page, how you should approach designing a page, once you understand what databases are, and once you understand what fundamental blocks are, you can either have bottom up approach or a top down approach. Bottom up approach basically is you have no clue on what you're going to build, but you have a desire to build something. You know the purpose of building the page, right? Then you start with bullet points. Once you identify patterns, that some of the points will be static part, like though they will not repeat, but some of the bullet points will be repeating, right? For example, in social media example, maybe the title of, like, let's say you are writing a series on something, like the title of the series, the description of the series, etc., will be remain constant, right? But every blog post will be repetitive. So that is the static part and the dynamic part. You now you understand what the static parts are now and dynamic part is, right? And once you have understanding of this, you can club all the dynamic part together in a database, right? And you can put the database in that page. And whenever you put content in the database, it will populate wherever you want to sync it, right? And that's how you create dashboards. Whew, that is the bottom up approach. You start with the blocks, you see the pattern repeating, and then you build from the repeating pattern the database, and from the static pattern the pages, right? Another approach is a top down approach. You know what you're doing, you know how the structure of the page will be looking like, you know what the structure of database will look like. And when you have these things already clear in your head, just build from scratch the database, the table, and arrange them. Cool. That's the bottom up and the top down approach. In bottom up, you are clueless, but you have a purpose. You start by jotting down the points. You see that some of the points are repeating, you turn them into database and put that there. And these which are not repeating, you that those are static, those can be used as pages. In the top down approach, you already know what you are building, you already have a structure in your mind, and you just build that system in motion. Cool. One part remaining is about the design and the aesthetics of it. So every block in Notion can have a background, their text can have a color. And with this color and background and the section header, section break, which we have talked, we can create visually appeasing pages. That's it. And every database have certain views, right? A database, if it has a date field in the database, it can have a view of a calendar. If it has a start date and an end date, it can have a view of a timeline, a list of timelines. If and if it has an image, it can have a gallery view, etc. So there are different views of same database, right? Those are essentially the same thing, but it manifests itself in different views. That is what timeline chart or gallery view or etc looks like. Essentially they are all database. Even if you create a timeline view, you can toggle that back into a list view, right? Those are the powers of Notion we'll be discussing tonight. And that was about it. Idea of organization: start, be easy on yourself, start with what works with you. Database and pages, database as a collection of pages as in collection of databases. Bottom up approach and top down approach. Bottom up when you are clueless but you know what you are building, the purpose. Top down when you know the structure, then you go with top down approach. Yes, with that, let's move on to next slide. Next steps: wishlist assignment. Check out the creators. There are plenty of creators on YouTube and there are plenty of blogs on Notion. Check out some of those blogs, explore the Notion feature, you have your account set up, you can check out their templates, get inspiration on what you can do with Notion. And once you have those inspiration in your mind, do this wishlist assignment. Give 3 things which you wish you can build with Notion. And in this 7 days journey itself, we will get at least one of those things built, right? Cool. So the wishlist assignment link is already sent in the Discord server. Check that out, fill that form, and let's meet tonight. That's all. Thank you.